Hi, it's Tracy. Welcome to my home here in Sussex, England. This episode we are doing not one but two living room refreshes. I've also got 9 makeovers for you. They're super budget friendly because they only use 2 products. We're going to style both of the spaces. It's going to be budget friendly decorating and very much leaning into that vintage, rustic elegance vibe. This is our winter evening sitting room. It's on the north side of the house, so the light is not amazing in here, so it's a really cozy room. This is our snug. Now, the light is amazing in here. There's no TV. It's a sit down and chat room. And here is Bertie, if you've not been here before. He's the furry supervisor. Doesn't really look as though there's much action going on at the moment. So let's get on with the first makeover. So I've got this lamp and this stand that I did do a makeover on. The same with this other lamp and this table. And now I just want to refresh them. I've had my paints delivered. I work with a lovely company, proper store company. Look, they even made me a stencil. But they have got an Amazon shop. Now, Olive, I'm going to be using next episode. But this one, we're going to focus on just 2 products, Old White and Dark Wax. This torchère plant stand, lamp stand, was an auction find many years ago, and it has been through so many incarnations. It's got so many different layers of paint on. Because there's already chalk paint and wax on it, I am just going to go straight on with the dark wax. And wherever possible, I always start upside down. I just find it gives you a better finish. You find every little nook and cranny that way. Now, regular viewers may be thinking, well, why is she using dark wax again? She uses that all the time, the same with the chalk paint. It's because I want to show you how to get so many uses out of single products. The worst thing you can possibly do is go out, buy a tin of something, only use a fraction of it, and then it's just sat in the back of the cupboard. We do not like waste over on this channel. Now, this lamp, again, has had many makeovers. I've wrapped the cord. I used white chalk paint and then a black wax. Now, I've gone right off the black wax and I've gone right off using shade. So this one I actually painted, and it was one of the earlier ones that I did, so I hadn't quite perfected my technique. If you are going to paint your lamp shade, then water down your paint and do several layers, and that way you won't get it cakey and thick and brush marks in. Now, again, this one is going to be transformed just with the dark wax. Such a powerful little product, this. You can really bring a different look and feel to a piece just with this one product. Now, I'm super happy with how that's turned out. So I'm going to let that dry, and then we're going to come back and do something with that plastic lamp holder. Onto this side table. This was found in a job lot at auction, again, many years ago. I love the paint effect that I've done on here. I just don't like the tones. I don't like the colour. Now, this is not chalk paint finish. This was a satin wood that I dragged over. And Annie Sloan wax works best on Annie Sloan chalk paint or any chalk paint because it penetrates through. It goes right the way through to the substrate and it bonds and creates a really tough, hard finish. It's a bit of a gamble working the wax over this paint because it's not going to react the same. But then we don't want the identical finish on everything because, quite frankly, that would be a bit boring. But we do want a cohesive look throughout the whole home. So by keeping similar tones, you can achieve that. And I could have painted all this in white first, but I actually quite like to experiment, and I think Bertie approves. It's a good finish. Now, let's move on to this next lamp. This was originally glass and red. And the shade, I can't even remember what colour this shade was. I think it was black. So it's had a big transformation back in my grey phase. And now it's going to get another big transformation, only it's going to be quite simple to execute. Now, I mentioned my grey phase. I think we all kind of dabbled in grey, didn't we? I don't mind grey. I quite like grey as an accent colour, but rather than having, say, 80% of it in my home, I'd like to drop it down to that kind of 10-20% mark, which is the process that I'm going through now as I'm working my way around different rooms. I'm just scaling it back ever so slightly. Well, actually, not ever so slightly. I'm scaling it back quite a lot, but not on the big expensive items. We're going to jump back on this lamp when it dries and sort out the lamp holder and the flex. But in the meantime, let's go on to the lamp holder of the other lamp. I'm going to use the same coir that I used on the flex. And what I try to do with these lamp holders is make it reversible. As my style and tastes are always changing and I'm always making things over again and again, I may get to a stage where actually I want lots of shades again. So I want to take off all this wrapping that I've done. And doing it this way means that I can. Four quick makeovers, completely different look and feel created. Now, whilst those are drying, let's head back inside into the sitting room. This part of the house dates back to the early 1700s, and these beams obviously will be earlier than that. A lot of them used to come from old ships, and they would modify them and use them in houses. Now, when we moved in, my original plan was to actually sandblast all of the beams. We had various specialists looked at them and basically was told that they would all come out different colours, as there's so many different types of wood used. Now, the one above the ingle nook, I am going to try and bring it back to a wood feel without that awful mess of having to strip back. But before I do that, I'm going to move some furniture because I have a new rug arriving. Bertie doesn't know about this yet, and he's not overly pleased that I'm taking his sheepskin rug out. He absolutely adores sleeping on this rug. Yeah, he looks like he's really going to get the hump, doesn't he? And yes, he has got the hump with me, sat outside staring at it. Well, let's get back onto this beam. Now, the first thing I want to do is remove these LED vintage bulbs, just so I've got a clear working area. I'm going to remove the deer head. It's a deer head that's lost its antlers. And I'm going to start with a couple of coats of old white. When we replastered in here, the plaster came over to the beam. So I'm having to work very carefully to make sure that I work right up to that plaster line. After 2 coats have thoroughly dried, watch the magic happen when I apply the dark wax. And actually, it's always a little bit scary when it first goes on. You'll often see me painting with multiple brushes in my hands. Now, I just want to give you a little tip. If you're doing something like this and you want to bring the wax in on a really tight line, use a tiny little bit of white spirit. Just dip your brush in and it will loosen the wax. Now, the Amazon delivery has arrived, so as if by magic, a rug is going to appear. So this is 3 meters by 2.4 meters. I didn't want to spend a fortune on a rug because I'm always changing my colorways. This one was £89. It's listed as taupe, but it looks different colors in different lights. So sometimes it'll look green. Sometimes it takes almost like a pinky tinge. Other times it looks grey. And when I don't want it in this room anymore, it's going to be a great size for the verandas. Now let's start bringing some of those earlier makeovers in. I've got some new bulbs on order for these two lamps, so when they arrive and when we do the styling, we'll put all that together. Now, my all-time favourite faux candles are still living in this window, and they live here all year round. Now, let's pop back in the table and the other lamp into this corner. We're going to leave the sitting room for the time being and pop over to the snug. And the first makeover is going to be this dresser, this sideboard. It's an auction find, and I have been saying for a long time now I'm going to redo it. When I got it from the auctions, I painted it black. I had a very dramatic, big dining room in a manor house. So it had a big makeover there. Here, I painted it the same colour as the ever-hot oven, and that is a dove grey. I went through a whole silvery grey thing as well, coming out of that. It's a lovely solid piece. It's super storage and really fits the space well. But the time has finally come for me to give it a revamp, a makeover. Now, first thing you've got to do is get into your painting slippers. Do you do this? Do you downgrade your slippers to indoor painting slippers? Bertie's having a stretch. He's ready for action. And the hardware is going to come off. Now, I'm going to reuse this and I'm going to show you how I create a different finish to it. I've put all the handles, including the little screws, into a plastic container. I'm going to add just a cheap paint stripper, and once everything is coated, then securely replace the lid and give it shaky shakies, regular shaky shakies, just to keep moving that paint stripper around. We've set that aside, and now we're going to crack on with the dresser itself. I don't want to lug this outside, so I'm going to paint it in situ. Now, I was thinking about layering up with lots of different paints. You'll have seen me do this in the office makeover, or maybe putting some bright colours underneath and then bringing the light on top. But actually, I've decided I'm sticking with the same process. We're going to keep it light, and we're just going to use the two products again, just the chalk paint and the wax. So once I've got all my tools together, all my supplies, I'm going to pop them all on a tray. I just find keeping things on a tray, it keeps them all corralled and they're easy to keep moving around. Now, just another couple of items needed. Nice cup of Earl Grey, my AirPods, and something to listen to. I am catching up on the Archers Omnibus. Archers is the longest running soap opera in the world. It's been going for almost 75 years. That's a lot of episodes to catch up on. Yes, I am using a roller, not my big Annie Sloan brush, although I will be using it for a little bit. The smaller brush I use to cut in, and then I go over it with the roller, and I'm trying to create texture for the wax to sit in. The big Annie Sloan brush I use on the barley twist legs and just in a stabbing motion. Now, that's the first coat, and you can just see there all the lovely texture that's been created by that roller. After I've given it two really good coats, I'm going to let it dry thoroughly before I start on the wax. Plus, using the roller means 0 brush marks. Now, let's get back to those handles. Bertie is in supervisory mode, so we can crack on. Now, you never know quite what you're going to find when you take the lid off this process, but 9 times out of 10, it's absolutely fine. I've got a very small wire brush, and I'm just gently removing the last of the paint. It's coming off super easy, quick rinse in water, and we are paint free. I've also got to find those little screws in there, but I managed it, and again, all the paint had come off them. Now, some of the back plates looked a different colour. You can see the brass stamps in the handle. So I think we've got a mixture of metals. I've pulled out my rub and buff and European gold, little smidgen of, and just working it around Doesn't take long to dry this. And it just creates this lovely effect. It just gives them that not completely uniform look, but it takes them back to how I would imagine they should have looked. Now back to the dresser, or technically it's a sideboard. I keep saying dresser, so please forgive me. I want to control the dark wax far more, so I'm going to cover the whole thing in clear wax first. That way you can just really keep a tight control on the dark wax and control the intensity far more if you've got that clear wax underneath. I use a cloth to rub back, and if I find that I've taken too much off, I can add more on. I like to offer up the drawers as well, just to make sure that I'm happy with the effect, because if I wasn't at this stage and I completely wanted to change it, it's much easier to alter the drawers rather than the whole carcass. So my recommendation is always start with your drawer fronts first. This will be touch dry within a few hours. If you want to buff it, do that after 24 hours. To fully cure, it can take anywhere between 5 to 21 days. So you really do need to try and keep things off it. Now, it's the next morning and I've had a little bit of an accident. In the shower of all places, dropped a massive conditioner bottle onto the side of my foot and my little toe just exploded with blood. So I'm trying to keep my foot level. My leg is not in pain or anything like that, but every time I bend my foot, the wound just opens and I start squirting blood everywhere. But I am not one to sit on the sidelines, folks. I like to crack on, and we are going to get this hardware back on. And how long did all this take? Well, it was a day. I mean, granted, it was a 12, 14-hour day, and I did wait until the next morning to pop the hardware back on. But it is possible to do a transformation like this in a day. Next makeover, and it's the mirror above the fire. Now, this was one of my first ever car boot finds many, many moons ago, decades ago. And now is the time for another makeover. So I have painted this previously in old white and then finished it in the black wax. So this time I'm just going to go straight over it with dark. To easily remove wax off your mirror, just go over with some white spirit on a cloth, drag it round. It comes off so easily. And the fork, just hang your string, your wire over the fork handle. Easy way to get a picture mirror on the wall, then just pull the fork out. Now I'm on a roll with this wax, so I'm looking around and thinking, dear head, you are not quite the right shade. And absolutely, he's winking back at me, saying, change me, darling, change me, wax me up. And obviously I'm going to oblige. Now, he did have 2 antlers, and I took them out in order to fit the head in that space. I'm so pleased with that. And of course, we've got another one, and we've got one with the antlers in position. What do you think, Bertie? Should we do it? Do you want to come out and supervise, or you're just having a little nap? Okay, fine. The deer head and the antlers are at the waxing station, and there is a left and a right on these antlers. I've also had to mix and match between the 2 heads, hence the slight variation in colour there. I'm afraid they've been in the wars over the years. One, unfortunately, is broken beyond repair and gone. The other one had the post knocked out of it, and it's the posts that actually sit in the head because these things are actually really quite heavy. So they are waxed, and I am super pleased that I got a little bit carried away with my wax because I think they've turned out brilliantly. Now it's a whole new day and the sun is rising. Yesterday it was fabulous and the cherry blossom was putting on such a marvelous show. And then through the night, we had so much wind, it almost looked as though it had snowed on the lawn. This is part of the reason why I never cut the cherry blossom and bring it into the house, because it just ends up a hot mess everywhere. Now, good news, my toe is healing and I have stopped bleeding. The bulbs have arrived, so we can get these lamps sorted out. These bulbs came from Amazon, not expensive at all, and super sized globes. Now, I'm not quite liking that square, so I think I'm going to put that on an angle, pop the bulb in, and way hey, super pleased with that one. I love using these vintage LED bulbs and without shades because they look lovely as they are. They also emit so much more light. We're going to do more styling in this corner, but first let's talk sofas. Now, a little while ago, I talked to you about how I was thinking of having a corner sofa. This is the type of corner sofa I had in mind. Lots of you said, oh, it wouldn't suit the style of your house, thinking I meant maybe more modular, or you won't be able to alter your sofas around. Well, I can't really in this room anyway, so I don't really want to spend £5,000 at the moment. So my cunning plan is to take the back cushions off these sofas. And because I've just saved myself £5,000, I think we can do a little bit of shopping. I'm going to go cushion shopping. Now, I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive. Why are you taking off the backs of sofas and then adding more cushions? Oh, by the way, I saw this amazing throw. I saw a few of them. And I've actually got a few coats from this company. But £99.99, £100 for a throw that the dog is just going to lick his bits on? I don't think so, love. I grabbed 4 of these and really happy with them, but I think we need to shop my home and round up some more off-white. Hang on, I've got more. I'm never short of an off-white cushion. And I've got my fabulous pile now to arrange them. So my thinking of taking off these back cushions, it saves about 6 to 8 inches of depth, which gives you a much bigger seating area. And then the individual cushions, you can just move around into your comfortable position. I've trialed this on the family when we've had people here, and they've loved it. A few even asked if I'd had new sofas. Give it a try. Take off those back cushions and just see how it feels. You can always add them back. Now, as Project Corner Sofa is on hold, saved myself £5,000, I can go shopping again. And I came across these gorgeous baskets. They were priced up very weirdly, actually. So the bigger ones worked out cheaper than the smaller ones for some reason. So while I was there, I couldn't resist a little look at the doggy aisle, the doggy toys in particular. And of course, I spied this. I thought, oh, Bertie would love a baguette, darling. He'd love it. Took that home and absolutely he loved his baguette. Check out the bum wiggle on this. The furry supervisor wasn't the only one to get a treat. This basket makes a fabulous kindling basket just to sit there right next to the ingle nook. It's on wheels, so it's easy to maneuver around. Absolutely love it. The liner is so strong as well. There's not a speck of dirt dropping down through the basket. Brilliant find. And as it was such a brilliant find, I couldn't come away with just one. So I got another one for the hallway. At the end of the hallway, we have a wood burner, so it's perfect for there. And in the laundry room, there is Bertie's toy basket. So now he's got an upgraded one, a very expensive one. Well, somewhere to keep the baguette, isn't it? Before we do any more styling in the sitting room, we're going to jump over to the snug and decorate in there. Now, I have this huge sofa in here, and I did this trick of removing the back cushions a long time ago in this room, and it has worked beautifully. We all cuddle up in there. I love all the fabric in there, so it's all just going to stay as it is. All the cream fabric. Now, the dresser has been drying for several days. Probably not long enough, actually, but I'm an eager beaver and I just want to get on with it. But if you are doing this for yourself at home, then please do leave it longer to really fully cure. The lamps were charity shop finds that I did a makeover on, so I'll link that video below. And the bowl has had a faux stone treatment that I do. That was in a shop and haul video earlier this year in Cornwall, as was the jug. Now, I had a recent TK Maxx find online, not in the store. These hydrangeas, just $9.99. There are 7 heads on each one of these. Amazing value, and we really struggle in this country to get good quality faux at a reasonable price. I found a pair of these comfy jars with lids at auction. Moving over to the mantle, and we're going to style here with some more thrifted vintage items, charity shop finds, auction finds, and vessels that I've used my faux stone technique on. If you're enjoying this episode, then please do remember to hit that thumbs up button and check to see if you're subscribed. Turn on your notifications and then you won't miss any episodes. Yellow is very much a colour I've been using through spring decorating. So I'm just going to add a few pops here with some yellow roses. This little vintage terracotta pot was an amazing find for just £1. Moving over to this corner where I have a very simple console table that I picked up for, I think it was £30 from auction, and it just fits this space beautifully. I'm going to move the lamp away because I will be adding that back, and I just want to create some space to start layering up my mirrors. These cute little picture frames were a recent charity shop find. I took the backs off, the glass and the picture out, and I'm just going to use the frames on their own. A little trick my regulars will have seen me do before. This is a garland that originally came from Hobby Lobby in America. It's a moss garland and it has all the little hangy bits, and I just wind it round and round, creating a nest, and then sit it on top of a pot, a vase, and it gives that lovely movement, that greenery hanging down. To it, I'm going to add some twisted willow from the field and a few more little pops of yellow with those roses. Bertie's best ever find. He adores this antler. He's so proud of it, as am I. Over to my £5 charity shop side table by the sofa, and here is Baguette Boy, aka Furry Supervisor. He absolutely loves this toy. He's taking it everywhere with him. Now, on the side table, I'm going to put on a great big dish that my daughter actually made when she was just 16, and I broke it, glued it back together, and then did my faux stone effect. She also made the jug, and I did, it's bright orange, but, I covered it in faux stone, and she seems absolutely fine with it. And to that, I'm going to add some more of the hydrangeas. Yes, I did buy more. Actually, a lot more. Well, I have just saved nearly £5,000 by not ordering that sofa, haven't I? On to some coffee table styling now. I painted this table last year and I was so tempted to do it again this time. But, you've got to draw the line somewhere. So that is definitely going to be a project for another day. I've got this huge tray, wooden tray, that I picked up from HomeSense some years ago, and it looks perfect on this table. It's just the right size. The brown bowl there is actually a vintage bowl and it's layered with bark. It was found at the Malvern Fair. I picked this candle up when I was at TK Maxx HomeSense for just £7. So it's terrazzo and with the lovely insert. And the smell is just divine. Another of Bertie's antler finds takes pride of place there. And moving across to the other side, I'm going to add the wreath that I did at Christmas. So this is bark from a tree that we took down in the field, glued onto a wreath base. I'm adding another one of these moss garlands from Hobby Lobby. They're so versatile, this. I wish I could get hold of some more. I've taken a piece of hessian and just wrapped some of the faux heather from Abigail Ahern that I've been using this spring, along with some pops of yellow using the roses. In amongst the roses, I'm poking in just a few little clippings of the pussy willow. We've got a tree growing in the field. And the third antler is going to just rest upon the top. And to finish the table off, I'm going to lay down a long-handled vintage candle snuffer. I was about to head off to the sitting room to start styling that when young Bertie, the furry supervisor, reminded me that I hadn't put back down the sheepskins under the table. He loves snuggling under there. Got to do what the boss says. Now let's move over to the sitting room and get this one styled. We'll start off in the space that if I had a corner sofa, this would be a seat. But I've got a £5 basket that I found in a charity shop. I'm adding on another £5 tray, a pot that I found in Cornwall that I did the same paint effect on that we've been using today, another one of those candles, and then in between those I'm going to add a magnifying glass. It's amazing how much I am using a magnifying glass as I get older, and of course a few more hydrangeas. I've still got some fairy lights left up from the Christmas decorating in here, and they're just hanging over two door panels. There were doors that were here when we moved in, and they're oak solid, so I set them to one side. We've got the lamp stand that I did a makeover on, another one of these big wicker wreaths, and a couple of frames again that I did a transformation on, which I keep meaning to hang, but never quite got round to it, and really love them in front of the bookcase. On the newly made over table, I'm going to break up that darkness with some lighter touches. So vintage books, a faux stone effect pot, some faux greenery, and then some other lighter vintage books where the covers have come off, and I still use them because I love the colour of them. Onto the coffee table, there is a tray, again one that I've done a makeover on. This one I actually created a crackle glaze effect with glue. The bowl was a £5 charity shop find, and somebody helpfully has written Box Elder Burr on the back, so I'm guessing it would be the person who's made it. On this side of the table, I'm going to put this amazing charity shop find that I stripped back using the oven cleaner method, and it turned out beautifully. It's so tactile. Windowsill decorating. Now, I don't tend to overload windowsills because I want that light to come in. This is why I don't have curtains. I'm also not overlooked, so I don't need the privacy aspect, but I love to let as much light into the house as possible. I've been decorating with faux artichokes for the first time ever this year. Found them on Amazon. I'll link them below. They are really good quality. To the basket of fir cones, I've added pops of green. These are actually golf balls that are covered in moss from the garden. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode and it's given you lots of ideas and inspiration. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your company, and I would love for you to join me again next episode when we're outside on the house veranda and we are going to be getting creative in hopefully the sunshine. Lots of pops of colours, lots of makeovers, all sorts of things are going to be going on. Till we meet again, take care.